Mechanical Engineering from IIT Bombay. Welcome, Mr. I also welcome our chairman and also our honorary secretary. Formal welcome by our honorary secretary.
Namaskar. Good evening to all of you. As you are all aware, the Institution of Engineers is conducting various technical presentation often almost 1 in 10 days. In this occasion, today I have a very good presentation on technical presentation on non-linear dynamics and applications to science and engineering. We know very pleasure to invite and welcome our Prof.H.R.Srirangarajan. He is a retired professor of mechanical engineering, IIT, prestigious IIT Bombay. I welcome you all. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of the Institution of Engineers and I also welcome our chairman, Sri B.S. Prabhakara, who is going to preside over this presentation, and Sri Vivaskar, program convener. And I also welcome our former chairman, Sri Chitswami sir, and Sri Satish ji for this presentation program. And I also welcome our senior officers, senior fellow members, and our committee members, Sri Subramania, Sri Srinivas Prasad, and all dignitaries and my dear fellow friends and senior members. Welcome you all. Thank you. And it's ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು, ನನ್ನ ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರಾದ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದ ಮಿತ್ರರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೂ ನಾನು ತುಂಬ ಹೃದಯ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ.
Dear members, it's my proud privilege to introduce today's speaker to this august gathering, H.R.Srirangarajan. He did his BE from NIE, ME from IIC, University of Science, PhD from IIC, and he was a professor in IIC for 6 months, and ADE DRDO for 7 years, professor in IIT Bombay for 29 years. Guided many BTech, MTech, PhD students for their degree in their project, published around 50 papers in international referred journals, presented papers in national and international seminars, and he was a vice chairman of GATE in the year 1998 when IIT Bombay was conducting the examinations. He was QIP coordinator of IIT Bombay. He was in active cultural activities and also being a IIT Bombay Kannada Sangha president for more than 23 years. And he was a senior fellow of our Institution of Engineering. Here I present a dynamic personality, Sri H.R.Srirangarajan. Over to you, sir.
Today's subject for my talk is nonlinear dynamics and chaos with applications in physics, biology, chemistry, and engineering. My talk is totally dependent on one of the finest book I have seen. This is the same title by Stephen H. Stokats. I would say this is the best technical book I have read. It's beautiful, and I advise you to go through it. Even as a layman, you can go through this book, and really, it's a wonderful experience with a lot of applications in so many subjects.
ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಸ್ ಇವತ್ತಿದೆ ಬರೋದು ಹಾಕ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಹಾಕ್ಲಾ ಅದು ಕೊಡಿ ಸರ್ ಒಂದು
I have been able to get PowerPoint projection only about 2 pages because it's full of mathematics and figures. Nobody in the city is able to do. So I got only 2 pages that I will show. The other things I have to depend only on writing on the board.
ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಎರಡೇ
Vibration is ubiquitous and universal. It is found everywhere. In fact, human body itself is a storehouse of vibration. We snore, which is some part is vibrating. We shiver when we are cold, when we feel cold. We talk by vibrating the larynx. We see because the atoms itself vibrate. We talk. We walk by oscillating the legs. We hear by the vibration of drums. Some part of the body should vibrate if we have to do all these activities. We can't even say vibration without the tip of the tongue vibrating. So human body itself is a great storehouse of vibration. This statement I have borrowed from one small book, beautifully written by R.E.D. Bishop. He's an English professor. A small book. He was asked to deliver a talk on vibration without mathematics for school children. It's a big challenge. I don't know how he did it. He and his PhD students made several models and explained the phenomena of vibration. Now coming to till this advent of computers and all this, it was very difficult to solve nonlinear equations. So the easiest thing is make it linear. Now, it is an absolute lie. All scientific theories are an absolute lies. What is an absolute lie? You know that it is lie, but still you lie, and with an ulterior motive. What is the ulterior motive in case of scientific theory? We want to have a mathematical solution. If it is very complicated, we can't get a solution. So we make it very, very simple. Linearity is one. Everything in universe is non-linear. There is nothing linearity in any part of the nature. In vibration, just like human beings, there are 2 things: good vibration, bad vibration. Good vibration is like music, concrete vibrators, and all where vibration is useful. Whereas bad vibration is one, just like we had Morbi suspension bridge failure. And we value somebody who is capable of doing harm to you. Otherwise, we won't bother. If he's a very good person, we don't care. Vibration does harm you. That is why you have to care for vibration. Recently, you saw the earthquake, which is nothing but the vibration of the earth, with 50,000 people killed. So you have to pay respect to vibration and study vibration so that you can minimize the destructive property of vibration. Now there was an incident in US. There was a Tacoma Narrows bridge, suspension bridge. It was built in July 1940 and it was opened. And from the day it was open, it started vibrating. So it was called Galloping Gertie. And it went on for 4 months till November and it collapsed in November. Now, because this was vibrating, it gave an opportunity to engineers to film the whole thing. The only bridge which is filmed in the world while vibrating is Tacoma Bridge. It was the investigation was done by one Professor Ferguson, and in the can you show that film Tacoma Bridge vibration? You can see that the bridge was oscillating in torsional vibration, and torsional vibration of amplitude 45 degrees on each side, and the nodal line was the central divider of the road. You can see that Ferguson is walking on that line, and the car was there. They left the car there and ran away. Finally, the amplitude was 6 feet at the end of the span, and then it fell down. Then they made a committee to find out what went wrong with the Tacoma Narrows bridge vibration. They found out that there was nothing wrong. That was the limit of the knowledge at that time. They didn't know that such a poor thing could happen. And the materials was fine, construction was fine, nothing was wrong with that. And they built they made a model of the bridge in the university and studied that. And with all that, they have built a new bridge and it is standing fine without any trouble. Because they understood what is it was the common vortices which was making the span of the bridge oscillate, and with the wind at certain speed, it came into resonance and it failed. Now they learned in 1940. We have not learned even in 2023. The Morbi disaster reason, that is the suspension bridge vibration. The first and foremost, the mistake we start origin itself. We have given the contract to a person who doesn't know how to build a suspension bridge. Then how can we do anything? And recently we saw that it was inaugurated without any formal approval. And recently this thing is all the rods were corroded. So everything is bad. If you do that, nature doesn't say that you Indian, poor Indians will see that the bridge sustains and all. There is nothing that kind of consideration. If you do something bad, you have to bear it. That is the Tacoma Narrows bridge vibration. There is a film that is there which shows the inauguration of the Tacoma Narrows bridge, then oscillating 45 degrees on either side, and then with an amplitude of 6 feet, then finally collapse of the suspension bridge. Now, a human being can be considered as a non-linear control system. The 5 critical parameters of a human being, they say these are the critical parameters. They are the heart rate, pulse rate, temperature, blood pressure, and oxygen saturation level. These 5 critical parameters in a human being. And they all is controlled automatically by the human body. So it is an automatic control, it is a closed control system, and it is non-linear control system. And you can imagine that it doesn't need any maintenance intervention for 100 years. For 100 years, human being can sustain without any intervention by anybody. In fact, heart is a wonderful thing you have seen. It is a reciprocating machine. Reciprocating machines have only efficiency of 20% or something. But still that heart beats all through your lifetime without any maintenance and without any problem. Unless, of course, some heart attacks do take place. Now, what is the difficulty with this nonlinear equation? Why are so difficult nonlinear equations to be solved? This depends on what is called principle of superposition. Principle of superposition is, if you have a system, you can break it into smaller sub-problems and solve them and add up all the solutions, you get the solution for the entire system. This is called the principle of superposition. It fails grandly in the case of nonlinear systems. Principle of superposition is not valid. That is why nonlinear equations are so difficult to solve. But world is beautiful only because of nonlinearity. If everything is linear, you lose the interest in life. If you do this, you get this. You do this, then life is not interesting at all. Even if everybody does the same thing, but the result could be different. Now there is another term called chaos. They have translated into a word in Kannada called avyavaste. Chaos. Really, chaos is, what is chaos? Chaos is, a system has some parameters. They all look deterministic. There is nothing random about it. But if you see the response from the system, they look like random. They are called chaos. And one very important property of chaotic system is the initial conditions play a very big part in that. Even a small difference in initial conditions lead to different results. Initially, it was thought when they invented the digital computers, they said we will form the equation of motion of the system. Then we have the numerical solution. We have the biggest powerful computers. We can solve them, and future is certain. We can predict this is what's going to happen. But it failed grandly because of chaos. Now, what do you do in digital computer? Even if you take double accuracy, the decimal place is 14 decimals. But that itself is good enough to cause completely different behavior. So, future is uncertain, unknowable, and it will remain so. Future cannot be predicted. You find out some medicine for COVID-19, you have many more diseases, variants of the same disease. Nature has its own way to see that it keeps you on your toes. However much you try, you cannot know. Now there are mathematics, when you come to, you have what is known as differential equations, where the time is continuous. Then you have difference equations or the iterated maths, where the time is discontinuous. Some period is there. In the case of differential equations, you have an ordinary differential equation, you have a partial differential equation. An ordinary differential equation, you have only one independent variable, time, and the dependent variable, x. Whereas in partial differential equations, you have two independent variables, like time and space. Now, the first nonlinear equation you come up and which you linearize is the pendulum equation, which is x double dot plus d by l sine theta equal to 0. Sine theta is a natural nonlinear term. You don't know. Sine theta is approximately equal to theta. You make that approximation and solve, and you get the harmonic solution of the pendulum. But this approximation throws much of physics out. currently the most difficult problems which are not solvable at the present time. And according to the author, it will remain so for another 10, 20 years, is the motion of a turbulent fluid is one problem which is very difficult to solve. The second one is the electrical activity in a fibrillating heart, which leads to heart attack. These are the two problems which even today is not able to. You cannot solve them, and he predicts for another 20 years it's not able to. You are not able to solve. Then there is what is called population growth. Population growth is there is a rate of population R, and there is current carrying capacity. They say, suppose you rear sheep in a field, the grass is limited, so you can rear up to some level, which that field can carry. That is called the carrying capacity. Now, this is represented by what is known as the logistic equation. N dot is equal to Rn into 1 minus N by K. Now, you can plot this N is the population, N dot is the rate of the population, and K is the carrying capacity, and R is the growth rate. Now, we could thought that these are called fixed points where the velocities are zero. Now, this represents an unstable fixed point. This is a stable fixed point. You see that all the motion goes to this. So, this is what K is it tends to K. Now, N versus T, if you plot, wherever you start, it ends in the value carrying capacity. This is the logistic equation, and this is in biology. So this is the application in biology of the nonlinear vibration. Then you have laser threshold. This is an active material enclosed with mirrors, and then you pump with several photons. Now, this will be till some limit is reached. This actually acts like a just as a lamp. Whereas after some threshold is reached, you get laser light. If you plot that, so these are some parameters. And till it reaches K by G, it acts as just a lamp. But as soon as it K by G increases, it becomes a laser. So this is the laser threshold. And this is the application of this thing in physics. Again, laser threshold.
That is beam, is it?
Huh?
That becomes a beam.
I think.
From lamp to beam,
Yeah, lamp to laser light.
or beam.
Yeah.
Repeat what those parameters are.
Huh?
Please repeat what those parameters are.
Parameters are? Yeah. These parameters are, the equation becomes n dot is equal to, n is the rate of photons, g n naught minus k into n minus alpha g into n square. Now g refers to the gain, k refers to the loss, and n is the number of photons, n naught is it is number of excited atoms fixed at n naught. So these are the parameters. This is the equation governing that. Now, if you write n versus n naught, you will see this is what happens. The ratio of k by this becomes 0. So n naught is equal to k by g is the point at which it becomes a laser. Now, this person has given some ordinary differential equations, coupled ordinary differential equations. But if you talk in terms of ordinary differential equations, it becomes boring. So to make it more interesting, he says love of S. This is nothing but two ordinary differential equations. But to make it interesting, he has made this. The first one is R dot is equal to AA. J dot is equal to minus BR. A and B both are positive. R dot is the rate of love towards Juliet, Romeo and Juliet. A is positive. J dot is the lover rate. If it is positive, it is love. If it is negative, it is hate towards Romeo. Now, what is this minus sign? They say it is the difference in male and female mentality. Romeo reflects Juliet. If she loves, he also loves. Whereas this Juliet is not like that. If she likes, she doesn't do it. She doesn't do it. If he goes away, then she starts loving. So this is a feminine quantity, he says, and this is now you can solve this on a phase space. J R.
What is
You
the
can
a net effect?
yes, please.
Net effect means somebody loves somebody other hates.
Yeah.
So what net effect?
No, that's a feminine quality. If you say if you start loving her, she doesn't like. If you go away from RG again, it's that is determinant.
So result?
Huh?
Result?
Now you plot the parallel distance on a phase space. The center is a fixed point. This is a stable point. And then you get elliptic orbits like this, and the movement is good. Now, depending on the initial energy, you have different elliptic curves. Now, the important point you should notice, in only one quadrant, they're mutually like. All other quadrants, either one heads or both heads. So only one quarter of the time, they are happy. Now, this he makes it more complicated. In fact, he has published one or two papers in his own Stephen Stokacs. So the next equation he did is R naught is equal to AR. He added one more term plus DJ. And J naught is equal to DR plus AJ. This is a model he selected. A is less than 0, B is greater than 0. There is a matrix associated with that. This is A, which is equal to the coefficients of these things, A, B, B, A. This is the matrix. Now, if we solve the quadratic equation coming from this matrix, you get tau is equal to 2A. That is the addition of the corner elements. Now 2A is less than 0 because A is less than 0. And delta is equal to this determinant, which is A square minus B. Now tau square is equal to 4A square. Therefore, this is greater than 0. Now tau square minus 4 delta, which is the discriminant of the quadratic equation, this is equal to 4B, which is greater than 0. Now we can see that r equal to 0, if you equate these two to 0, both the velocities must be 0. That point is called the fixed point. Now one point you get is r equal to 0, j equal to 0. Now that is the origin. Now, depending on if a square is greater than b square, the fixed point is like this.
Last part of
This is a square greater than b square. This you can see that all the thing goes to zero. That means wherever they start their affairs, it ends up in mutual indifference. This is a square by is greater than b square. If a square is less than b square, then it is known as the fixed point is known as the saddle point, which is unstable. Then he says, depending on the initial conditions, suppose something is here, it explodes into the thing which is love fest. They are both like each other, like anything. Whereas in other quadrants, if it starts, it ends up in war. Nobody likes it. They see they separate. So these are the mutual two first order differential equations, analyzed in terms of this. Only for creating interest, he says love affairs. Otherwise, mundanely you can write x dot equal to this, why not?
You can say attraction and repulsion.
Huh?
Attraction and repulsion.
No, in this case, depending on the initial conditions, their love affair it explodes. Or in the other quadrants, if they are there, it ends up in war. Both of them separate, exploding. Either they come together or no. Now, in the nonlinear oscillator, there are two very important oscillators. One is called the Duffy oscillator. Any nonlinear study involves these two oscillators. Another is called the Van der Pol oscillator. In this case, nonlinearity is in stiffness. In this case, nonlinearity is in damping. This is Duffy oscillator. If you use the non-dimensional pendulum equation, it is x double dot plus theta double dot plus sine theta equal to 0. Now sine theta, you approximate it to theta, you get the equation sine theta double dot plus theta equal to 0, you get the harmonic circle. Now let us introduce the next term in the sine theta expression. You get theta double dot plus theta minus theta cubed by 6. The one more term you put and you need to get small here, and it's very difficult to solve.
Sin theta expansion.
Huh?
Sin theta expansion we have taken.
Yeah, sine theta approximation. The next term expansion you take, you get theta cubed. This is the Duffy oscillator. You see that this nonlinearity term is small compared to this. This is 1/6, whereas this is 1. Therefore, the solution will be around the linear solution. That is how they solve. They assume that epsilon is a small term and we solve. You first assume that epsilon is equal to 0. You take theta harmonic function and then vary the amplitude and the frequency. You get the solution. There is no principal harmonic balance. You get the solution for that. Now this van der Waals oscillator is nonlinearity in damping. This was seen first in radio circuits. It is slightly from electrical circuits you find that. The equation in this case is x double dot minus epsilon into x square minus 1 into x dot plus x equal to 0. Epsilon is a small term. Now this is the nonlinearity term. We assume that this is small and only these two. Now try to get the nonlinear solution around the linear form. Now this has some noise. If mod x is less than 1, then you can leave this part because the square is small. Then you get minus into minus plus epsilon x square. Therefore, the damping is positive. Positive damping. If epsilon is greater than 1, then it becomes negative damping. Then what happens if you study the van der Waals oscillator? You get a damped solution should not have a periodic solution, right? Any damped solution cannot have a periodic solution. But in this case, you get a periodic solution. The periodic solution in a damped case is known as the limit cycle. So when epsilon is large, negative damping, so it tries to build up. Then when it goes from somewhere, again comes back. So if you plot the curve for this van der Waals oscillator, plot x dot versus x, and you get now this is the periodic oscillator. If you start from somewhere near the origin, it winds onto this. If you start somewhere here, it again goes around and then it comes. So this is the periodic solution which exists, and this is known as the limit cycle oscillation in van der Waals oscillator. This has got a application in psychiatry. There is a disease called bipolar disorder. And this is quite a serious disease. What happens is your mood varies for about 2-3 months. You are in the manic state, very energetic, doing everything, you are very enthusiastic, you think you can work like Narendra Modi, all that manic state. You take very hasty decisions, and then after 3 months, you become depressed. At that time, you start, why did I do this? I should not have done that. This kind of bipolar disorder is modeled by the van der Waals oscillator, and you can predict how the patient continues in his life over the number of years. So there are a lot of papers on this.
So the question is, there is no cure. It is a question of management of the person.
Yeah, there is
Basic
no cure.
constitution.
Bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, all this is no. You should know what your control. What happens is bipolar disorder, generally genetically they are
Yeah,
wrong. And the circumstances, if they add up to that,
yeah, that's right. It is actually the damping that controls the whole behavior pattern in terms of linearity and non-linearity. And it is a damping that can either lead it to stability or it can lead to chaos. So damping is because stiffness itself makes it more or less harmonic, by and large. It's the damping that I think that is the part.
no, the psychiatrist say that they prescribe some medicine and you have to take
Yeah,
till
yeah,
you are alive.
that's right.
Many diseases are like that.
Yeah, yeah.
At least the allopers say that it cannot be cured.
No, we are happy that
Other people say we will cure and the immediate statement is, no, don't worry, it will become very violent, but later it will come down. When it will come down.
no, we are very glad that you have all of you academically have brought all this in the range of predictable mathematical possibilities. That is
There are some parameters are there in this equation. You assume that equation, also assume those parameters. From that, you can predict the future behavior of the person.
yes,
And it might help the doctor.
it might. Quite right.
These are very serious results.
Yeah.
When the person may go,
Huh?
when the person may go to the
Person, people around, everybody can make out.
when the person himself can make
Crowd behavior.
Oh, yes. There are many characteristics. For example, when a person is in manic state, he talks a lot, non-stop talking. And he thinks he can do everything, and that nothing can stop him. And he mixes with all people like that. We'll make some like 20 phone calls per day because it's very free of phone calls. Wherever he is depressed, he will be alone. He doesn't mix with any people, and he doesn't talk much. This is the thing. It's very easy to find out the one is in 95 depressed. Very easy to, especially with close relatives who are this thing, they will know.
Difficult to kind of.
So the patient also will know over the number of years that he has to control himself during manic state. Because during manic state, he takes some hasty decisions, which in the view, why do he take it? In fact, the problems are more psychiatric than physical. Now they are, in fact, both are, in one of the cases I said, psychosomatic diseases, it is called. One person, they cut off on this liver and something of the teeth. So they cut off on here and they were seen. So at that time, somebody asked, do you have anything to do with police? Immediately, the biggest organ is called diaphragm. Went into the higher intestine and ended so tight, he had stomach pain. So the mental, in fact, in sports, it's very well known. That you are defeated mentally first, then physically.
Yes.
Unless you mentally accept that you are defeated, you cannot do it.
Exactly.
That is why they say in some ways, game point is not game. You have come to up to one point, but other point you cannot get unless the other person accepts it. Accepting will be mentally.
In fact, Albert Schweitzer's famous statement is the more you demand of your physical and mental resources, the more you get. It's that mind.
And there are some more things.
Here.
Same this,
There is another fact, what is known as fractals. What is this fact? We know that a line has got a curved line or a straight line has one dimension. An area has two dimensions. Or one has three dimensions. But what do you understand by a dimension 0.60? Oh, these are called fractals. And they exist. For example, there is what is called a Cantor set. What is this Cantor set? You take a line, 0 to 1, you divide it into three parts. Okay? Then you omit this part. The middle one third you omit. Then in the next case, what will happen? This you will have. Middle one third again you omit. Here also. This is known as Cantor 1/3 set. Now, what is this? The dimension we know, m is equal to r to the power of d. M is the number of copies. R is the ratio and D is the dimension. Let us take an area and divide this into half. Now, m number of copies is 4. R is equal to 2 because half we have made. Therefore, if you put that, 4 is equal to r to the power of d, r is 2, therefore d equal to 2. Hence, the dimension of the area is 2. Now, similarly, you can make, instead of 2, you can make it 3. Here, m is 9, r is 3, because 1/3. You will see that again 3 square is equal to 9. Therefore, D represents the dimension that this division has. Now you make this, apply this to this. What happens? This is S0 still, this is S1 still. How many copies are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 number of copies, and R is equal to 3. Isn't it? R is equal to 3, 1/3 we have this. Therefore, according to this, D is equal. Suppose you take logarithm ln of m divided by ln of r. Therefore, this is equal to ln of 4 divided by ln of. This is a fractal. Now, fractals, why should we study? There is no use where it appears. But he says the fractals are exceedingly beautiful. And some of the photographs I show, which is taken by Mandelbrot. And then it is called self-similarity. You take a picture, and then you take zoom on it a little bit, and then expand it. You will see the same small little bit. It is the same, which is called self-similarity. That property. And it is not only exquisitely beautiful, but it is useful in what is known as computer graphics. image compression. And like this, there are 2 or 3, 4, in fact, it says you can send secret messages using chaos. Now, chaos, even in ordinary life, we can say that we are going to every day to catch bus and go. One day we are 1 minute later we miss the bus, and we feel oh necessarily wrong. But later you find out that the bus met with an accident and many people died. Then you are very happy. So a small difference in time can lead to death and so this is chaos. If initially they thought anything can be solved, but you have to give some accuracy, even double accuracy in 14 places. That is good enough to give very different answers. That is why weather prediction is impossible. R.K. Lakshman once given, only one person was carrying the umbrella. He was the weatherman. He predicted rain, and the sun was shining like anything. And not only like he says, the effect is so much that a butterfly wings here might change the atmosphere weather condition in America.
Well-known illustration of
This
the
is, and in 1963, Lawrence was one physicist. He was studying the weather conditions and the convection rules and all that. He predicted there will be chaos. Everybody made fun of him. He says you are a fool, shooting shit out. You have given some shit to the computer and given some shit out. So it's of no value now. He couldn't publish his paper anywhere in the world. He sent to many. It was a very revolutionary idea. Then some unknown magazine he submitted. Later, now there are at least some 15 journals publishing only on chaos. And several experimentaries, they said, oh, this phenomena, we observed in our experiments. We thought that there was something wrong and we neglected that. So like that, any revolutionary ideas, it takes time to be accepted. And why did people start studying nonlinear? They were quiet for a long time. Why should they study nonlinear? There was a cause for that. Nature forced them to think about nonlinear. There are some causes we ignore it, okay. Then we are forced to think due to some. One was what is known as jump phenomena. All these nonlinear effects was found in electrical circuits. If you write the forced vibration phenomena like this, it is like this. This is amplitude and versus frequency. It starts from that is static deflection and it goes like that. At the natural frequency, it reaches infinity. Now, what happens when you have a nonlinear line? It bends to the right or left. If it bends to the right, it is called the Harman's line. If it bends to the left, it is called softness. Now, what happens? If you increase the frequency like this, if you come here, from here you cannot reach these points. These points you can't get experimentally. They are unstable points. So it jumps, the response jumps here, and then it goes. There is a jump phenomenon at this point. It was noticed in electrical circuits. If you reduce the frequency, now it comes up to this point and then jumps up. And then it falls. So this is called a hysteresis loop. If you increase the frequency and then come back frequency, what energy is lost. This is known as the jump phenomenon. It was noticed. So you cannot He explained the jump phenomenon in helium. Then they had to take up nonlinear physics and they had found out. And they studied. Then they found out that analytical solution was impossible. But later they found out for the vectoral equation. In terms of elliptic functions, you can get the analytical solution. And there are several numerical solutions. You can use any equation, if you can formulate, you can solve. But again, I said the initial point is always there. There are many areas. One, the other book which I like to state is one engineer has written, Dan Harker. He wrote in Mechanical Vibrations, 1956, volume I got. I purchased that book. Usually I never purchased that book. That book was, my teacher was very strict. I was afraid that I may not pass that, and he was following that book only. So even though it was very costly, I bought that book. And it's a beautiful book. And he's such a practical engineer. There was a Francis water turbine. In the penstock used to vibrate so heavily. Miles together you could hear the voice. And now that noise. So he was called into, you see, he is such a genius. It's such a simple. The runner had 17 blades. He made it into 16 blades. That's all. The noise almost vanished. Just 17. If you see the graphical representation of this thing, all the pressure used to add up like this. 17 rebound back pressures. Add up until you have a great sound. Whereas he made 16, then what it can be, you can do this. So it annuls. And you have zero noise.
One is great. Quenches the other.
See the genius of the person. He's really, he's mechanical engineer should read the book for you. And
No
vibrations.
Vibration is vibration. Vibration.
Penstock. Francis water turbine. Penstock used to vibrate so heavy. And by making the runner from 17 blades to 16 blades, almost eliminated. And there is another engineer called Timoshenko. Timoshenko, he's a refugee from Russia, came to US. And he did know English. He was only Russian. So almost universal language. This way. He joined Westinghouse Electric Company. He found that the workers were all almost uneducated. They didn't know anything about engineering. Then this fellow started with his universal language explaining him things. The classes became so interesting. The factory appointed him as the instructor. And then the transformation he had brought in American education is phenomenal. He has written at least 6 or 7 books on various mechanical subjects, strength of materials, theory of plates and shells, theory of elasticity, theory of plasticity, vibration problems in engineering.
Language.
Huh?
In which language?
English.
Which language?
English. And in America, here at least 16 PhD students.
Yes.
All of them are professors in head of the department or some department.
That's right. That's right.
And the first PhD student, young, he became his subject.
And they jointly authored.
Jointly.
In fact, I would say that the entire American technology post 1950 was because of Russian mathematicians.
I think he was Ukrainian.
No, I tell you what, Timoshenko was from Ukraine, I think that area. Many of them were brought in there.
And the applications of this thing, galloping of transmission wires. The cross section is usually round, but if ice settles on that, it almost becomes a aerodynamic shape.
Then they put.
And then, yeah, because of the wind, it vibrates. And in the diagram we have shown already before, it's called Sagarnasam place. The transmission wire vibrated so heavily that it touched the other wire and there was short circuit and there was no power.
The solution was simple. They put damping balls at frequent intervals.
And then one balancing of multi-cylinder units. Inertia balancing. How do you balance? You can see any multi-cylinder engine you have in the car, which is usually six-cylinder engine. Six-cylinder engine. And they are fully balanced. There is no disturbing force, there is no disturbing moment. That is why always we adopt six-cylinder engine. And we have rotating machinery. You have to generate the power. You should have the rotating machinery. They will have critical speeds. You have to balance that. Where the rigid rotors, flexible rotors, and all the balance. And then we have another biggest type of vibration. It's called random vibration. The parameters themselves are random. You cannot have an absolute value. It varies. Now then you have to get into statistical parameters. But fortunately, nature has made such a way that if you know single degree of freedom system, 90% of industrial problems can be solved. Only for single degree. Another 8%, if you know 2 degree of freedom system, you can solve 8%. The rest only 2% require very advanced work, which involves aerospace or all.
Thank you very much for your. Thank you very much for your technical presentation, sir. Very nice interaction, please. Questions, sir.
Sir,
Interaction.
Okay. Mic. So mic ಇಲ್ಲ. Mic.
On protection first.
ಸರ್ ಅವ್ರು ಹೋದ್ರ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್ ಹೋದ್ರು
ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇದೇ ಕೊಡ
ಇಲ್ಲ ಬೇಡ ಹಂಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇದು ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಕೇಳಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ರಾಮನ ಸೀತೆಗೆ ಏನು ಸಂಬಂಧ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ I am asking the question, what is the objective or what is the output you are trying to get from all this exercise? What is the output you want after doing all this analysis?
ಓಕೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್
That's my first question. The other thing is, here we are not at all discussing material properties. The material itself is non-linear, like concrete, as opposed to steel, which is linear up to the point. How does this apply?
The material itself is non-linear. Your life becomes much more difficult.
For instance, when the earthquake shakes the earth, and the buildings are made of concrete, there is non-linear vibration because of non-linearity of the material itself. So, I mean, in any case, what is the final result of analysis you are trying to get?
The applications I said.
Better, sir. I'll let you.
various fields.
No, let's take mechanical, not psychology and all that. I'm not.
Mechanical vibrations, you have to see Denata.
Sir,
He has got many applications. He has shown in that book. Mechanical engineer should read that Denata.
In the case of say earthquake vibrating a building.
Earthquake is, it is highly random vibration. It is random vibration. Vibration of a very heavy magnitude, but very small time. And earthquake technology itself is a different. It doesn't come into the and you have to build earthquake resistant buildings, and you have to take care of special construction for those. For example, many of the areas where earthquake is expected, they don't build such kind of buildings. I got the building would be papers will like even if it collapses,
Wood
it
panels,
doesn't trouble human beings.
wooden panels, wooden panels,
Wooden. US all wooden only.
Japan,
That is why they are angry with Indians when we focus on
Japan also.
open fire, they don't like.
All equations are absolute lies.
All equations are
Absolute lies. Because pi is involved. Because of pi,
Pi,
32 by 7,
pi, 22 by 7.
all equations are only approximate.
That is there. in every formula. So that
All equations are only approximate.
approximate.
Because 22 by 7,
That itself is an
Formula.
approximation.
the pi value is there up to 15 decimal, 20 decimal. 22 by 7 is an approximation and it is good for engineering.
so absolute lies.
Engineering is not like mathematics. We don't need 15 decimal places.
But absolute lies.
If you take thickness or something, we won't take 4 decimal places. We take 1/3.
No, that's a different aspect. But there are absolute lies.
I said all scientific theory are absolute lies.
Nearer to truth.
Only thing is, it serves a purpose.
Approximately.
It serves a purpose. As I said, 90% of the industrial problems can be solved by single degree freedom. Single degree freedom is the truth. It is an absolute right.
That's why empirical formulas by experimentation we find out.
Finally, we can't find out something analytically. We do experiment, get values and
Get values
the tables.
and approximate values.
Go backwards. Theory.
No theory involved at all. It is just taking
No,
the
they are
values
not
of the
aware. Theory is involved. You will not be aware.
Sounds important. Somebody said, why do you want to climb the mountain? Himalaya mountain. Because it is there. It is there, I want to climb.
Still,
So like that, any study, if one is interested.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Alright.
And now the presidential remark by our chairman. Dear engineer friends and the general public also, Dr. H.R.Srirangarajan has given a very knowledgeable discussion and others.
ರಮೇಶ್ ಬೈಕ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಬೈಕ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಮಾಡಿ
has really given a very, very knowledgeable speech today. And he had my part of the speech, that is, he has made it easier for me. Just I will read out the gist of the what he has taught. Nonlinear dynamics and Chavos find applications in physics, biology, chemistry, and engineering. In physics, laser threshold. In biology, population growth. In chemistry, oscillating chemical reactions. And in engineering, weather prediction. Chavos, people call it chaos also, was predicted by Lorentz in 1963. He was working on weather prediction. It was a revolutionary idea at that time, and as it happens, nobody was prepared to publish his paper. Now, chaos is very well accepted, and there is an avalanche of papers on Chavos. What is Chavos? The system does not involve random parameters, but the response looks like random. Also, there is a sensitive dependence to initial conditions. The system with a little difference in initial conditions have a totally different response. In nonlinear vibrations, there are two oscillators, one nonlinearity in stiffness and the other in damping. In stiffness, it is called Duffing oscillator and the other is called Van der Waals oscillator. These two are the standard nonlinear oscillators. The second has application in psychiatry, which he has explained in detail. The first one is useful in studying simple pendulum. The applications are in. Now the most difficult problems are motion of turbulent fluid and electrical activity in a fibrillating heart. So it reminds me one difficulty we faced due to vibration when I was working in Shivasamudram generating station. The third machine, turbine, used to give lot of vibrations. Then we called our chief engineers, all the many civil engineers, we took the vibration measurement, so many things. Yet they changed the concrete, that portion we changed in the concrete also. Then also it persisted like anything. He gave an example for the changing the Francis turbine from 17 grades to 16. Really it is great. So such ultimately that problem was still persisting. We could not find out the cause and it still persisted again. So he has introduced it into a very great subject. Definitely we will have still a daytime seminar for this, sir. It's a very great subject. As he told, it started in 1963. Non-linear means, as you know, it is not a linear one. So in problems, we come across non-linear problems only. As you told, human body itself is a non-linear container, so to say. So the world is non-linear. We have to solve the problems, engineering problems or other problems in a non-linear way only by resorting to our increasing our knowledge. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now we will go to the last agenda, the vote of thanks by our Joint Secretary.
Good evening to all the dignitaries. First of all, on behalf of IEI Mysore Local Center, I thank Professor H.R.Srirangarajan, retired Professor of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Bombay, for his wonderful sharing of knowledge on nonlinear dynamics and applications to science and engineering. I also thank our honorable Yeah, thanks to my fellow committee members for honoring such a great personality. So this kind of events are possible because of able leadership. I thank Engineer B.S. Prabhakar, Chairman, Mysore Local Center IEI, on behalf of all of you. Thank you, sir. So I also thank Engineer H.S. Suresh Babu, Honorary Secretary, IEI, Mysore Local Center, for his gracious presence. So today's programmer, convener, Engineer K.V. Bhaskar, the man behind this show, is here. We thank you for this event, sir. So I also thank all the participants for your presence.
I want to recognize our Manjunath, Sri Manjunath, Airport Director, Mysore. So thank you very much for coming our lecture program. We are very happy. Thank you once again.
Thanks, one and all.